We're live.
We're live. Welcome.
Welcome, everyone, back to Between Two Slopes. We're excited to be here. I'm Austin Rose.
Yes, I'm Trent Walker.
Co-hosting today. And excited. This is our second live event.
Yes, and we're still working out some of the kinks. So let us know how it sounds, how it looks. We got a new camera, so it should look way better than it looked last time. But let us know.
Yes,
we're
Learn to
stoked to
Burn.
be here.
Daywalker 13. If you can hear us okay, give us a thumbs up. It'd be much appreciated.
Yes, super appreciated. But while we wait for that, here we go. Way better.
Awesome. Way better from last time.
Love that.
We are improving.
Yes.
Good to know.
Sweet. So what are we talking about today?
Well, yeah. So today, our live stream event is talking about the different types of skis and snowboards.
That's right.
Right? We want to get in and talk to you about really the different classifications and types of all mountain type of skis versus powder versus your groomer skis. We're going to name off those different profiles, what the technology goes into those, as well as for snowboards.
Yeah. And I'm really excited to get into snowboards. Austin knows, we both know a fair amount about snowboards, but I would say Austin knows more than me. So I'm looking forward to learning something myself here.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, when we first aired this same podcast, a year or maybe even 2 years ago, I think it was one of our highest viewed sessions or highest viewed podcast posts that we put out. And a lot of people liked it. And I know it's still a common question, especially with all the different categories now. We're hitting times where people are mixing freestyle and free ride, and it gets confusing. But if you really want to know what the best ski type is for you, or if you're like, what's my next upgrade, this is a great episode.
Yes. And we really want to make sure that we're helping you as much as possible hone into either your next ski or what you should be looking into. So feel free to shoot us a message in the chat, and we can even answer your specific questions.
Yep. We'll keep an eye out for you. And other than that, we're going to hop in and start breaking down the different types of skis and snowboards.
That's right. So we're going to start with your front side and beginner skis and snowboards. Now, one thing we want to make sure is very clear is that though we lump together front side skis and front side boards, and when we use the word front side, really we're just talking groomers and beginner skis. The reason we lump them together is because their shape is similar and some of the technology is similar. However, it doesn't mean that a beginner ski and a front side ski are the same, right? An expert can really have an awesome, enjoyable time on a front side ski, even if they've outgrown a beginner ski.
For sure. Absolutely.
So, yeah. So let's dive into what that looks like.
Yeah.
What are some of the main qualifications for a front side ski?
Yeah. So this first section, front side skis, really also called groomer skis oftentimes. A front side ski is designated for skiing one direction, usually front facing, designated for good, clean carves. Sometimes you can even group in what we call a race style ski. It is separate, as in it's built specifically for ski racing. So I don't want any ski racers to hate on me for saying that. However, the technology and design of the ski is very similar in the sense of you're going for a good carving ski, something designated to be able to ski mostly on the groomed slopes.
Yep.
Right? Not something that you're really looking to take into powder or really to go per se all mountain. I put that in air quotes because you'll hear all mountain on almost every ski you buy. Right. So, and we will break down to what a true all mountain ski is in our next sections. Right. But similar with snowboards, front side snowboards, again, designated same deal. You're usually riding in one direction, carving, trying to go toe heel, side down, learning how to go one direction first, mostly built for groomed slopes. Snowboards, however, are a whole nother beast in the sense of a front side board would do way better in powder than a front side ski would.
Oh, agreed.
So it's not something on boards. It's not necessarily that it limits you to just groomers as much as it's going to focus your skill on building specific techniques to skiing down on groomed slopes.
Yeah. So let's talk about the shape a little bit of the skis and then the boards.
Yeah.
So what would be the waist width range for a ski in the front side category?
Great question. Right now, for skiing in the front side, you can ski groom slopes on any ski, really, right? But the front side ski category is really going to be focused within 65, 70 millimeters underfoot, which is going to be that center part of the ski underneath the binding. You can kind of see in the back here behind my boot. And that width there, 70 to 85 millimeters, is going to be your typical range for front side skis.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think we've got an Atomic fan in the chat. What's up, Dylan? Haven't talked to you in like forever. Dylan and I go way back. But one thing I want to really hone in on is, your front side ski versus your beginner ski, though they're going to be sharing these same waist widths that you referred to. Usually a front side ski or a groomer specific ski is going to be heavier. Right.
Absolutely. Yep.
So
yeah, and that weight actually is a benefit. What it does is it actually can help with the carve. It helps you when plowing through harder crusted snow to really help transition that edge into the snow, so you can activate your carves and have a cleaner carves going through. Right. So a lot of people, especially beginners, are kind of scared of weight on a ski, and it's not something to be afraid of. It actually is a huge benefit when you're skiing. Enormous. However, it just sucks to carry into the resort.
Right.
And that's why most people are like, give me a light ski, give me a light ski,
Yeah, but then they get tossed around as they're getting up to speed or getting better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we can even talk about, what like composite materials are going into a beginner ski. Now that we've kind of touched on the front side ski, let's talk a little bit about the beginner ski, and then let's jump into snowboards.
Right. I gotta say, Dylan, love your comments hopping in here.
Yeah.
The bent Chetlers.
Yeah.
That one we will hit later in the episode, hopefully. Trent's favorite ski.
Oh my gosh.
And we got
good.
some J skis getting thrown out.
Well,
Just hitting them all.
Shout out to Dylan. When I knew Dylan, he was collecting or trying to collect as many bent Chetlers as he could.
Oh, really?
Like a ton, yeah.
Okay.
Are you still doing that? You still collecting souls or what?
See if he throws it in the comments here. Right? No, that's solid.
Yeah, so speak to beginner skis.
Let's hop back over.
Some front side skis.
Right?
Yeah.
So beginner skis, you mentioned. So, or you want to hear beginner boards?
Beginner skis, and then let's switch to front side boards and beginner boards.
Gotcha. Yeah, so common beginner skis you're going to find, my favorite, always throw out there, Rossignol Experience, right? The Experience 75, solid beginner ski. I've used it in my 5 years of renting skis. Always rent out Rossignol Experiences, and I've loved them. I started on them. Teaches you a lot of great basics. The reason why I like this as a beginner ski is really because they don't short on the technology that they use in the Experience ski. It's going to be the same tech that they use up in their other lines, right? They're going to give you a solid wood core. You're not getting a foam cord ski. Usually comes with a binding on a system mount, which is nice. So you get like a great price, just a great all-around beginner ski. The benefit of these skis too is beginner skis will typically be a little bit softer than your more experienced front side skis, right?
Yeah.
They'll be softer specifically in the tip and the tail. It's going to allow it so that when you do carve, it's not going to hold you in too aggressively where you can't then transition into your next turn a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Right. So that's just something more notable about a beginner ski versus your front side or more aggressive downhill groomer ski.
Right. And one thing I even want to speak to that softness is if a beginner skier is, learning the whole mountain and they get into a mogul field, right, the softness is going to allow them to kind of go with the flow of the moguls. Or something really stiff, if they don't know what they're doing, they're going to feel all those bumps a lot harder, and it's going to be way less forgiving. So that is a great point to keep up, right?
Absolutely. It's a good general reminder for you too. If you are choosing a new ski to ride, you are going to be looking at stiffness, right? It's your stiffness ratings. And this is the same for ski or board. You're going to notice, especially up in the tips of the skis and in the tails, a lot of softness up there. Now, softness for beginner ski or for any ski can really also be defined as forgiveness.
Yeah.
In a lot of situations, right? There are stuff you can get into, like such as this this Armada ski, where the softness can play into some playfulness that allows the ski to move a little bit. It's a little lighter weight. It gets to move a little more freely. It's not something you're bombing the hills on, though, right? It's something that you get to play around with, which is why we use that term playfulness. You get to kind of have fun with it that way, right? If that's something you're into. But it also allows you to just have some forgiveness in case you do hit a hard carve and your tips aren't going to like grab and shoot you out and just spit you down the groomers, you know?
So I think in this category of, frontside skis, beginner versus, expert frontside skis is really going to be stiffness is going to be huge. Weight is going to be huge. And then probably length is going to be huge, right? Because a beginner skier is going to be on a shorter ski. Well, let's jump into snowboards now.
Yes.
Beginner boards, they're usually not super big, and they're actually usually a twin tip, right?
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
Yes, very interesting. So beginner boards, now you'll notice with snowboards, you have a few different types of profiles, and they do relate with the different type of snowboards that we have. A beginner board it's not going to be marketed as a beginner snowboard.
Right.
You're going to notice more a board that you're looking for is going to be number one, soft. You're looking for anything in a flex rating. On the boards, they do it different than skis. They actually put a rating on the board, 1 through 10, on how stiff that snowboard is, right? Which I kind of wish they did with skis, to be honest with you.
I know they're like starting to do it more with skis, especially like Armada, but it's not very common in the ski world.
And the reason being is this isn't a industry standard. It's not like something that's being tested by a third party group that's saying, yes, this is the stiffness rating. It's something that the manufacturer is saying, this is how I would describe the rating of the board. So, even though both of them are at a 5 stiffness rating, 2 boards may actually be very different in the flex, but they'll probably be close. They'll probably be somewhat similar there, right? So with a snowboard, first I want to say you're hitting that flex rating. 0 through 4 in the flex rating. It's going to give you a nice soft stiffness for some good forgiveness. Second is going to be that shape. You're looking for a twin or a true twin shape. Most beginner boards, you'll probably find they'll probably just call it a twin board. They may designate them as a true twin, which the difference being is going to be that it is completely symmetrical from the front half of the snowboard to the bottom half of the snowboard, right? That would be a true twin, symmetrical in every part of the design, that the way the edge is bent, the way the core is placed, everything is completely symmetrical versus a regular twin, or sometimes even a directional twin will be slightly different from the tip to tail.
Yeah, and one thing I do like about, putting someone on a beginner board that is a true twin tip is you have these boards that, or you have these people that they don't really know if they're goofy or regular, right? Like this is going to sound kind of goofy, but I ride my scooter goofy, but I ride my ripstick regular, right? And so really it comes down to a comfort as they're learning and adjusting. If they have a true twin, it'll be easier for them to try out both ways and really learn what feels most comfortable for them. Right.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I love that they do that. But another thing that I really like that they do is the rocker profile to a beginner board, because usually they're like flat to full rocker, and they even rocker. So usually a ski rocker is like this way, right, up on the tips and tails, but a snowboard will actually rocker out this way, so you're not catching edges as hard.
Yeah, and I have a great example I can show you. I know Learn to Fern is wanting to see the flex test as well, which is a great thing to show. So we will show you that. So I've got here a little junior board. This is an original Burton snowboard from the 90s that I have saved for my nephew. I'm really excited for when he's old enough to ride it. Now, this is actually a junior / kind of teen adult board. It was actually designed as a trick board, and we can show you a little bit about the design of this and the way the flex works. Something I want to comment that Trent just said was talking about rocker, right, and flat. So I'm going to hit that real quick, then I'll show you that flex test, which is on beginner boards. We're talking about a board that generally on the bottom, when you lay that board completely flat, the whole bottom surface here will be flat with the ground. right? You can put it on the carpet, on tile, or just something that's flat, and you can just check and see, is there any gap between the edge and the center of the board and on the ground, right? Another test you can do is that when it is on the ground, you can actually step on the center of the board and see if that board, if you can slide it side to side, if it's got any sort of camber, which is this kind of rainbow arch type in the wood, right? What will happen is the board will actually push down into the wood and it will engage the edge and push it down into the carpet. So you won't be able to move it very well side to side, right? Gives you an idea on how camber plays and why it might be something a little more for an aggressive rider, right? It's not something to be afraid of, though. It gives energy to the board, right? But most beginner boards are going to be in that flat rocker zone where the rocker or reverse camber is just like the tip here. The whole board has a little bit of a banana shape to it.
Like a boat.
Yep. Or it'll be flat with just raising the tip and the tail. And that is just going to be a lot more forgiving for beginner riders.
Yeah, especially, so I've tried snowboarding once, and I was on a board that just had a lot of grip to it. And so I was just catching edges left and right. And so a beginner board having that rocker is really to help new riders not catch edges as aggressively. I mean, you're still going to catch probably. So just get ready for that.
Yeah. Part of the process, right?
Yeah.
So I do want to show you the flex test. Now, the flex test, this can go for any ski or snowboard you're buying. So we've been talking a lot about beginner stuff. I'm excited because I think we're ready to move on to something a little more exciting for those of you in our chat that actually ski and board and are like, dude, get on with the live event. Like, get on, talk about the cool stuff, right? Now, the flex test is important to do anytime you are buying, renting, whatever, and you're looking for a ski or board to use, and you want to know how stiff it is, right? This is a very general test, and we'll see if you can see it on the camera okay. And I could probably lift it up here a little bit, but I'm going to just kind of kneel and show you. What you're going to do is you're going to stand that board up, maybe at a little bit of an angle, okay? So it's on its tail. You'll put your hand down to the center of the board and push and bend that tip forward, okay? You can bend this sucker as far as you can try, and you won't break it. Guaranteed. Like, if you do break a skier board that way, like, send me it. Like,
take a picture and send it to us.
I'd be willing to pay for that. That is impressive. You must be really strong. So I'm going to show you here.
I get the board up really weak. Yeah, that's a good spot.
Right now, something you will see with this board is not very flexible. Okay, this one itself doesn't have a lot of movement. As I push in, I can feel a lot of stiffness, even in the tip up here. And that's because this board, why it was designed as a trick board or a directional junior board that's a little more advanced, is it actually has a solid wood core. For most junior riders, you're not going to get that. You're going to get a lot of foam designs in them, and they're going to be very soft, very playful. This is a fun, aggressive board, which is why I'm keeping it and saving it for my nephew. And I'm so excited.
That's awesome. So, and those of you who can't see and you're listening to the podcast later, it's just really key, as you could see, or as I'm going to explain, as Austin flexes into it, you can feel the give of either the board or the ski. And depending on where you push it, you'll actually feel different flexes, right?
Absolutely.
So if Austin did it with these ultralights, and he did it underfoot, it would be a lot stiffer than if he did it at the tip. The tip of the ultralights is actually pretty soft, just to accommodate that powder, but underfoot is pretty stiff. So that's another thing to keep in mind as you are doing these tests and trying, pulling skis off the shelf and trying them at shops, is depending on where you're pushing them will actually differ, right?
I love that you bring that up because I was about to say something about that.
Yeah.
Because it's something so common that I see in shops. And I might have a little story time here because I swear
story time.
Every time I hired an employee that was just kind of new to the ski game, or they've been skiing forever, but they're just not into the product game yet.
Yeah.
They always do the same thing. And it's people coming into the store, they grab this ski, right? I'm going to see if I can pull it up here. All right. It's nice and tall. Woo! These are 186 centimeters. So they're tall skis, right? But what they do is they take that tail and they stick it on the ground straight up and they start bending this ski, right? And it's so funny to see because they're like, oh my gosh, look at how much bend that has.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's like, yeah, it's because you're putting pressure on the tips and the tails on like a ski that's designed to be soft on the tips and the tails, right?
Exactly.
Like, obviously, you're crippling it.
Now, how boards and skis are designed, boards usually the core runs straight tip to tail. Skis, oftentimes, they actually will modulate and they won't put the core all the way up in the tip of the ski or the tail.
Yeah.
They will actually just do a laminate layer with fiberglass underneath and not have that core running through the tail. So what you're actually doing at that point, you're flexing the tip and the tail. Even though you're pushing in the center, you're only bending that tip and tail.
Yep.
If you want to check the stiffness underfoot, you need to get that tail to a point where it's basically flat on the ground. So you're going to be at almost a 45-degree angle, maybe even a little lower. So you're not having a ton of, you're having more tail contact as far as the base of the ski, but you're not running just off the very end tip.
Yeah.
Right. And then at that point, you can place your other hand down near underneath where that rocker ends. Okay. You're trying to get your contact points away from those rockered areas. Then you can flex that base. And that will give you a true test of how the ski actually flexes underfoot as far as where your stiffness is going to be. You're still going to get a lot of flex when you're carving on the tip and tail, but it's not going to engage until you hit that core.
Yeah.
Right.
There was a guy that I worked with named John. He was an older gentleman. And when he'd see people like flexing it like that you're saying, he would laugh. He would almost strictly, he'd put the ski up on like a bench and flex it that way so that the ski is like flat. Because that's what's giving you more of that true feel that you're referring to, right?
Absolutely.
Another thing that's interesting, and I don't want to get too deep into this rabbit hole, is, this ski in particular has a semi-cap underfoot to full cap. And what that really is going to do is...
Now we're talking edges here, just to help explain.
What that's going to do is make that flex profile even more progressive, right?
Right.
It's going to be changing depending on these different stages of the ski because of the way it's built. So
absolutely.
Always look for that. Okay, great. I think we've knocked down beginner boards. Do we need to talk front side boards a little bit more?
I think we've kind of hit it. I'm going to say let's move on. I don't want to spend too much time on that. I know we also don't want to be dragging on all night here.
Right.
So I'd say let's move on into our next category, which is going to be really more your all mountain skis.
Yes.
Okay.
And one thing I want to preface before we get into all mountain is really these ski categories that we're talking to are like a spectrum, right? So you have like your front side skis to powder, and as you move to the middle, you're getting into, all mountain. But there's still like this in between section of all mountain and powder and all mountain and front side where you're starting to blend features, like all mountain skis usually have a pretty good nose on them so that if they get into powder, they can still perform. Right. And so if you're getting into a front side ski that's really wide in the nose, it kind of starts to blend these two categories. So that's one thing, if you're like, I really like my front side ski, but I wish I just had something a little more, then you can look at a ski that starts blending some of these attributes.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about it. Like there are categories that are strictly called all mountain skis, right? You'll notice this a lot if you're shopping on Evo, right? One of my favorite websites.
Yeah,
especially to check out gear details. Evo's awesome. They will have a category that just says this is an all mountain ski, right? And let's just hit like what that means. I love how you break that down though, Trent. Just as, to keep in mind, if you've got groomers on one side of a scale and powder on the other, all mountain's really everything in between. But the all mountain specific category is going to be like that next step up from groomer.
Yeah. And I usually like to think of all mountain, and it also depends on where you live and where you're skiing. But for me, an all mountain ski is like 94 to 106.
Okay.
Like kind of in that range. Because it's really allowing you to get into the trees and get into softer snow without sinking. However, there's still skis in the 88 to 92, and depending on women's skis versus men's skis, that's a whole nother topic. But generally, I like to think of all mountain skis as that, 94 to 106.
Right. You'll notice a lot, and just to hit it real quick, if our groomer skis are 70 to 85 millimeters underfoot, the next step would probably be front side / all mountain skis, right? And so they are all mountain, but also more geared towards a front side ski. That would be your 86 to like 94 millimeters.
Yep.
Right. Just to give you a little more clear definition on that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are wondering a ski to check out in that range, Blizzard, I love their skis. I've said it time and time again. The Brahma 88s, they actually just replaced the line, the Brahma Anomaly skis. Right.
Which is like the sickest name ever, Anomaly.
Right.
That's so sick.
And it really describes how most people have talked about this ski. The Anomaly is in the sense of this ski just is, it stands out within the entire range of Blizzard skis. The Brahma 88 used to be, I'm going to just refer to it real quick as the Brahma. It was the ski that you could take anywhere. It's a front side ski, but people are like, dude, I hit powder in that and I love it.
Right.
And that's what they called it. It's like an anomaly. It's just like, what is this? And that's kind of where they've transitioned this line.
Yeah.
So check that ski out. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
Right. Let's hit the rest of all mountain, talking 95, 96 millimeters up to 106, 108. Describe those skis for us real quick, Trent.
Yeah. So first off, you're getting something that's, because it's in that all mountain range, you're really getting a lot of different flex patterns, right? I think of, one of the first things that come to mind is the Nordica Enforcer 100, right? And I would say that's an all mountain ski, but if it recently snowed and I wasn't going to be on groomers a lot, I actually probably wouldn't consider that ski just because it's heavier than what I prefer myself, right?
Right.
But it's still like a 100 underfoot. It's got a good nose, so it could go into the powder or into the trees.
Yep.
But it's more of like, I like to call it, like 70% of the time you're going to be on groomers and like 30% of the time you're going to be in the snow or in the powder in the trees. And every ski I kind of like to break down that way in the all mountain category, right? Like how often are you planning on getting into powder? All right, let's then tailor a ski to that. I also think of the QST 98.
Great ski.
I would say the QST 98 has got to be the closest thing to a 50-50. That like, 50% of the time I'm going to be in the trees and in the powder, and 50% of the time I'm going to be in the groomers, and this ski is going to kill it, right?
Yep.
Like that ski rocks.
Awesome.
It's got a good nose, it's got a good tail, it's forgiving, while also being, an aggressive skier can get on it without finding its limits. So really, those are like my two epitome of like an all mountain ski that I like to, benchmark.
Yeah.
And then they kind of grow from there.
So I'm going to propose something here.
Okay.
Now, if you're looking at Evo, you're going to notice you got basically the way they run skis. They're going to say groomers. Next up, they're going to have park as a whole separate category. Then you got groomers. Then you have all mountain. Then you have free ride. And then you have big mountain. And then you have powder. Right? Now, I'm going to propose all mountain skis, like you said, really are just going to be our middle category. We've got groomers on one side, powder on the other. Here's all mountain. Let's split it now and say under all mountain, we have two of their own categories. Okay. That is encompassed in all mountain still. It's going to be your freestyle skis.
Yep.
And your free ride big mountain skis.
Right. So your free ride skis or versus your, what did you say? Freestyle. So I feel like free ride is something more shaped like the Enforcer where it doesn't have as much of a tail, where free ride is something shaped a little more like the QST where you're going to have a tail. And if you really
tail rocker,
exactly.
This. Yeah.
And one thing that I like to, that's a good example of this is actually that Nordica line. You look at the Enforcer 100, the next step up is the Enforcer 104 free. The only difference, or one of the biggest differences that you're getting from the 100 to the 104 is the tail rocker, right? Because that's giving you your forgiveness, that's giving you an easier turn, an easier pivot, whereas your Enforcer, the 100, which I think it's like a 99 now, it has more of a flat tail, which is going to give you those harder carves. So that's where I would divvy those up. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. No, I love that you said that. A big thing, like I do want to speak to. Now, this is kind of I don't want to say a controversy, but it a little bit is reading about this today. The Enforcer 100 was always a free ride ski. It was very stiff, flat in the tail, designed so that way you can charge through any kind of snow.
Yep.
You can go through crud. You can go, crud's that icy block snow and whatnot. You can go through that no problem, still hold an edge, be feeling great, right? More freestyle skis, because they're lifting up that tail, and they usually end up being a little bit lighter weight. When you ski through crud like that, you will start to notice a little more chatter, right?
Yep.
The tips of the skis and the tails might flop and flail a little bit, causing them to just kind of smack on top of the snow, right? That's what we call chatter in a ski. So what that does too, when that's happening, it's also a sign that you have less edge control. So in that condition, usually if you're chattering, you can't go as fast, you can't ski as aggressive, thus why you might side for the Enforcer 100, right? So I want to hit real quick the Enforcer 99. If you are a fan of the Nordica Enforcer skis, I mean, these things have been around like what, 7-8 years at least, and they just like hadn't even ever changed much. They just do minimal changes as they have better technology, right? They would upgrade core materials and edges and whatnot.
Or construction, whatever.
Yeah, simple stuff. Now the Enforcer 99 has a bit of a change this year. If you are looking to get an Enforcer ski, please note the 99 does add a little bit of tail rocker to it. They've designed this ski to be kind of a merge between their freestyle and free ride. It's almost like a little bit of a middle ground. It still has some good weight to it, still carves well, but it is going to be a lot more playful. So it's trying to kind of give you the best of both worlds there. Some people love it. Some people are a little disappointed because they loved that hard charging ski. Right. So just a good thing to keep in note. If you are a hard charging skier, beware, be careful, but maybe give it a shot and try it. I like it.
So now let's talk about all mountain boards.
Yes.
What does that look like?
All mountain boards. So when you're talking snowboards, that's a really good question, because it's going to fall in the same kind of category as far as most boards are still all mountain. They can kind of go anywhere, right? But your specific categories of all mountain usually blends with a freestyle snowboard, right? They do have a free ride snowboard, and it really hits very similar to what we're talking about here with skis. Your freestyle, same thing. It's going to be softer, a little more forgiving. If you like to do stuff like jibs in the park and you want something that pops around, more playful, that's going to be more your freestyle all mountain ski. While your free ride ski still goes everywhere on the mountain, it's going to be stiffer. Same thing as like a Nordica Enforcer, as we've just been talking about. It's going to want to carve. It's going to want to go through crud. Everything there actually transfers from ski to snowboard, which is like the first, or something you don't see super often, which is nice. But actually, when you are talking about technology, it's the same between boards and skis.
One of the biggest things I actually want to touch on with boards is I feel like boards, when it comes to camber profiles, have like a way wider variety than skis do, right? Because usually in skis, we're talking about like this free ride versus freestyle, and we're looking at like rocker camber versus rocker camber rocker. Now on boards, you have full rocker, rocker camber rocker. You've got, like
flying V.
You've got flying V. You've got where they rocker up to camber and then they're flat on top.
Hybrid.
Right? Like there's all sorts of things, and that's where you really want to ask yourself, how aggressive am I riding? Because if you're going to be on the groomers, like get yourself a board with some camber, because that bite is going to make your carving experience a lot better. Whereas, you've probably been used to something that's full rocker if you were on a beginner board before.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, really free ride and all mountain freestyle boards, like you said, they are going to be that next step. They're not going to be flat boards. They're not going to be reverse camber rocker boards. They're going to be hybrid. They're going to be straight camber, and they're going to be flying V style, right? Which is just like a big wave, right? It's rocker camber or camber rocker camber. Now, those boards are really designed to help give you a little more versatility as far as going throughout different terrain. The big difference between going up to that free ride really is just stiffness and sometimes shape of the board, right? Your free ride boards might end up being a little more directional versus an all mountain board usually will still stay within that more twin style shape.
And to be honest, like I don't board, right? But I feel like if I did, I'd really gravitate towards a directional board, right? Because you can get a really cool shape from a directional board. Usually the nose is a little wider, which would allow you to get into more powder,
Yeah,
right? But then at the same time, because you're not constantly flipping back and forth, your tail can be more designed to be more stable,
absolutely.
And it's probably because I'm a skier that I think that way, right? Because skis do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
It's funny because all skiers, we think we know snowboards a lot
but
more
we
than
don't.
we do. I fall into that category still. I do like to ride and get out occasionally, especially with my brother and whatnot, and my nephews, and just getting up and cruising up Brighton. Um, however, it is kind of funny because the science behind how something works doesn't always feel the way you would expect.
Yeah,
Is
I would
what I'm
agree.
trying to explain there.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I do want to talk a good board if you are looking for an all mountain freestyle board. This is where I like to recommend Burton. Burton Custom and their Custom Flying V are great all mountain boards. I mean, the custom, I think it was Red Gerard's been throwing tricks in the X Games and Olympics and whatnot with that board. It is a solid board to get you anywhere on the mountain. And really, I want to just talk real quick to say, uh, if you are a beginner, now there is a whole category, as we said, like beginner snowboards. But if you're somebody that knows how to ride a board, you know how to ride a skateboard or something like that, of somewhat similar, maybe you've been wakeboarding. It's not gonna, it's not the same as snowboarding, but a lot of those skills do transfer as you start to get used to riding. This is where I like to tell people, don't be afraid of camber. It is good to buy a board in your category, but you also want to be able to progress, and you don't want to be buying a board every year, right? So they're expensive. Same with skis. So I say this because a lot of people are scared of camber. They're scared about flexing their board and their edges into the snow, what that's going to cause. And like I said before, yes, it does cause your edges to bite a little bit there. You can detune those edges with a file to help give you a little bit of transition if you are worried about that. We get into that kind of stuff in our tuning videos if you want to see that. However, camber allows a board to have energy underneath it. When you flatten that camber on a ski or board, what it does is it creates a load of potential energy, right? And when you go to pop between turns, that potential energy, as you start to lift your weight off, is going to release, and it's going to want to give you some push, and it's going to help push you into your next turn, right? As I started snowboarding, I saw that right away, starting on some cambered boards. I loved it. To me, it actually gave me the feeling of what it was like skiing a little bit, as far as that energy underneath your foot. And riding on a flat board feels a little dull. It doesn't have that energy. So it's a little safe, but as somebody that even went from skiing to snowboarding, I am so glad that I opted for riding camber boards first, and wasn't afraid to give that a shot. And that actually came from recommendations from guys that grew up snowboarding. And they said, dude, don't be afraid of it. It's okay.
So we are starting to, come to the end, but I think that I think what we should do is save powder skis and maybe give them their own episode where we can dive into that. But I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about park skis and park boards. How do those fit into our all mountain front side categories? Because they can be pretty wide ranging,
Right. No, absolutely. Park skis and park boards for a long time have been looked at as a very specialty item. Even in the shops, when somebody comes in asking for a park ski, there usually aren't a ton of options that are designated park skis that most shops carry, because a lot of guys are just buying them online, right? Now, we will talk about the features of them, and there are options you're going to find in shops. It's not like it's impossible. You may notice that you have a little more limited version or limited options there, because the majority of consumers are looking for all mountain skis that are not necessarily designated for park.
Or your shop salesman's going to be like, if you came in and you were looking for a park specific ski, they might steer you towards, here's an all mountain ski that would do really well in the park because it's a true twin. Right. Or here's an all mountain ski that would do really well in the park because it's soft. Right. So there's different things. And you really, once again, have to ask yourself, how often am I going in the park? Am I living in the park? Okay, then let's adjust. But if you're like, I'm hitting at least 50% of my runs are in the park, okay, something like an Idolo would be awesome.
Right.
I love the Adolo ski. I think it's a
Great
phenomenal
ski.
ski.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's that same thing where, just like Austin's saying, this specialty item, if you're asking for it in a shop because it is a little more specialty, you're probably going to get pointed at something that's not a true park ski.
Yeah.
Like,
It's just kind of the way it goes.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the features you're looking for. And we can dive deeper if anybody is interested, leave a comment,
Yeah.
Send us a message, even if you're watching this after the live event.
We'll still get it.
We'll get it, and it just lets us know you want to hear more about park skis, right?
Mhm.
Because we could talk a lot about your more designated stuff.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the features to look for in a park ski. Number one is going to be shape,
Yep.
right? We're talking
I
park
think that's
skis,
probably the biggest thing.
probably the biggest thing. Twin-tipped, true twin skis.
Yep.
Again, true twin, we're talking symmetrical skis.
Yeah, and
Same
your
on
mount
the front
point,
as back.
your mount point's going to be super close to center. We won't dive too much into mount point today, but you're probably looking very close to center for a park ski.
Absolutely. Your stance is more centered on the ski, right? The twin tip refers to meaning the same technology in the tip is in the tail, so you can ski backwards. It's a big necessity for a lot of park skiers.
Yeah, they like to land backwards.
You almost have to have it,
or take a jump backwards, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now you will notice if you're looking all mountain skis, like Trent said, if you go to a shop and they point you towards a more all mountain ski, you're probably not going to have that true twin shape. And that's something that was really important to note, because if you are skiing backwards, it is still possible to ski backwards, but most all mountain skis are designated front side skis.
Yeah.
They want to be ridden facing forward.
Right. I think of like the Bent Chetler 100. A ton of people use that as a park ski.
Oh, yeah,
because it's
absolutely.
light, right? It's surfy. It's got a good flex pattern to it.
It has some lift in the tail.
Right. But that ski is not a true park ski. No way. But like, people can make it work, and they're able to go outside of the park and still have a killer time on that ski.
That would be a ski that I would say you can, if you want to ride the whole mountain and you want to be hitting the park, that's a great ski.
That is a great option.
You know,
lightweight. I'm pretty sure that the mount point's like 7.5 back from center.
Yeah.
And then if you want, some people who ride it for park, they bump it up to like 5.
Absolutely.
5 back from center.
Yep.
But once again, that's a different conversation for a different time.
Line skis as well is another brand I would highly recommend for someone that likes to have a playful ski, which gets me into my next topic, which is stiffness on a park ski, right? And this is the same for a snowboard, right? Again, and the shape is the same for a snowboard, looking for that true twin shape, right? Now, if you are a skier that wants to have a little more playfulness, and we talked about doing the jibs, doing butters, right? If you don't know what a butter is, go look it up.
They're so sweet.
When you're able to flex that ski a lot more, have that play, and be able to do a very loose style of skiing, right? You're going to want something a bit softer.
Yep.
Right? You want to be able to flex that ski a lot more. Now, if you're looking to do big jumps, you're going to want to do the opposite.
Yeah.
Right?
You want something a little stiffer.
Absolutely.
So, like,
rails, oftentimes you want something a little bit stiffer too.
Yep. And if you think about it, you're going off a jump, and you never want to like hit right on, because that hurts like a son of a gun, right? So you go off a jump, and if you can kind of like tails to, kind of this motion into it, if your ski's really soft, it's just going to whip down, right? But if you have a little bit of a stiffer ski, it'll give you some of that gradual letdown into the big landing,
Absolutely. So. And, a big part is also like takeoffs, or if you're doing any sort of ollies on a board or ski, you can ollie a ski, yes.
Yeah.
Which has to deal with rocking your weight backwards in the ski, getting that tail to flex, and then shifting your weight and being able to pop off the back and whip that top down, right? That kind of motion on a stiffer ski allows for a little more potential and flexed energy, right? When you flex a stiffer material, it's going to want to shoot out quicker and harder than a soft material, right? The elasticity point then changes. So this is what we're talking there. That's going to give you more energy for jumps. It's going to help when you land a jump. So any sort of big air type, action you're doing, stiffer skis.
Yeah. And I really think that, once again, it comes down to your preference. How often are you going? How often are you going to the park? Because they're like the Bent Chetler or the Adolo, or like some of these line skis or some other Armada skis. You can really get features of a park ski that are really great while still getting features that can benefit you anywhere on the mountain. I've taken the Adolo through chutes and loved it, right? And then I went down to the park after.
So, Trent, before we wrap this up, I want to get a little more on a personal recommendation now here. Okay. We've talked about groomer skis. We've talked about all mountain, freestyle, free ride. We've kind of shorted on big mountain per se and powder.
Yeah, we'll lump into we'll
lump
do that.
together.
We'll touch that next time.
Right. And we also on snowboards, we didn't talk much about powder boards or really asymmetrical snowboards.
Yes.
It's a little more of an advanced topic, so I don't want to get too deep into that today.
Right.
Right.
We could be here for another 45 minutes.
Exactly. Now, I want to ask you, from what we've talked about, I want to hear maybe one, your favorite ski that you've ridden, what category that falls in, and two, we've talked a lot about flex.
Yeah.
Soft versus stiff.
Yeah.
Where do you land? What has been maybe your favorite experiences on soft or on either a soft or a stiff ski?
Yeah.
What's your
style? The first thing that comes to mind is, and Austin knows this, and if you've been listening for a while, you know that like I really like forefront skis. But honestly, the first ski that came to mind was the Armada Declivity.
Yes.
I was able to jump on that thing and it was light. I expected to overpower the ski like right out of the gate. Never found the speed cap on it. Felt really comfortable, had a good tail, and I really, really enjoyed that ski. Felt very comfortable at very high speeds. So that would probably be one of my favorite skis right now.
Yeah.
I loved it. And super versatile, 102 waist, right where I like it.
Where was the stiffness on that ski?
Underfoot, super stiff. Had a little give in the tip and tail, but still like actually a lot stiffer than what I'm used to.
Yep.
And I really liked it. And then later, I ended up trying a ski that was softer, and I did not like it at all. But same question to you. What's like your favorite ski right now?
Yeah. So I'll start with the stiffness real quick because I love that you mentioned that. I've tried a lot of different skis. I've ridden, a variety from being in the shops and having been able to demo basically any ski that came out for 5-6 years.
Right.
And what I have found is I really gear towards stiff skis.
Yep.
I love riding a stiff ski, and I'll tell you the reasons why. Is because of the energy and the action you can get from it. They are so incredibly responsive. When you're going through groomed slopes, you can engage edge to edge like that, right? While a soft ski is going to give you that forgiveness, it's going to be so much softer from edge to edge, which is fun. Now, I used a pair of line skis for a long time, and I even used them as like a little jibby park ski. And I used to love just playing around the mountain on those. However, it wasn't really a ski that I could just like do anything with.
Right.
It
really found the limitations.
It really did limit me, especially on speed caps on groomers, carbs. When I'm skiing with Trent likes to bomb the slopes. Right.
I like to go fast.
So trying to keep up on a soft ski is terrifying when you're getting tip chatter. You're trying to hit an edge just to do a slight carve, and you're having to take another like 10 meters to get that turn because the speed takes away from your ability to carve on a soft ski.
Yep.
Right. So I'm much more of a stiff ski fan that I have found. If you're playing around, that's great for soft skis. Being someone that just likes to do everything though, hit the groomed slopes, hit trees, hit powder, the stiff ski that I found with that energy underneath, it's just been what I like.
Yeah. So what ski is that? Put a name on that ski.
Yeah. What I ride right now has been one of my favorite skis so far. Volcal Revolts 104s in the back there. They are awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Surprised me to the max on actually how stiff they are. The Revolt is a stiff series, and it is one of their park skis that they use in the more narrow waist widths. However, this ski as an all mountain kind of actually freestyle ski really hits like a nice medium stiffness that just does everything.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and one thing I want to speak to specifically about this ski is, and like the declivity, we're talking about 104s and 102s that we're preferring on groomers.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes we would help people and they'd be like, well, anything above a 95 is is too much. And I'm like, if you're skiing in the West, it is not too much.
The East Coasters always
Yeah,
that are,
it
which is
And
a
they're
very
great.
different
They're
snow.
so like, honestly, we can talk about style and like East Coast versus West Coast. They have a way better control
better
of their
form.
turns. Oh my
Everything is
gosh.
better.
Yeah, West Coasters don't know what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
But it's just very interesting how, like, we're talking about, you know, having a good time on groomers on all mountain skis, and these skis are above 100s.
Right.
You know, that's cool.
I love that you mentioned that. And I was going to say my second ski that I've said time and time again as the one I'm most excited to try is going to be that Blizzard Anomaly 88 ski, because as much as I love the Brahmas, how stiff they were, it just made a groomer day fun. And as somebody who, like, I got huge into riding trees, and that was my thing, was tree skiing, mogul skiing, and just like finding different routes where people weren't like and hadn't been to.
Right.
That was exciting to me. So for me to love a ski that was under 90 millimeters as well was a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, to take a ski that can make a day that like is a bluebird day and the snow isn't anything amazing, and it makes it a fun day.
Yeah.
It makes it you feel like you started skiing again.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
worth bragging about. You know, we do have another comment before we wrap up.
Okay. It says, how does one come to understand what ski or board you prefer? That's a great question. So there's a couple ways, you know. You could go demo a couple different options. I think that would probably be the quickest way, demoing. But also, where do you like to ski? Right? If you're like, you know, I know this skier and I know that they prefer blues. They aren't doing a ton in the trees, but they'd like to, you know, dive in there. Something that can do groomers and do these blues and maybe a touch on the blacks, while still being able to venture off would always be a good place to start. So even like, I'm a little rusty, but even like a QST 90, you know, something along those lines, just something to really keep you going all day that's not cumbersome.
Right. Now, I love that you say that, and I don't know this skier. Right. So I want to kind of take a different perspective, and I want to say, one, to know what, you know, type of ski you like, the only real true way is to go ride them. It's just to have experience trying different things, right? It's the only way to really say, yes, I like that, no, I don't like that. However, you don't have to like rent every model ski down the line to find your category, which is what Trent is talking about, right? It's going to be saying, where do I like to ride? Number one, right? Where do I find myself majority of the time on the mountain, right? And even if you are saying, I like to ride powder, however, like 90% of the time I'm on the grim slopes, I would not opt for a powder ski.
No.
You want something that you're going to be using, right?
Yeah.
So one, where am I skiing? What do I like to ski? And then two, where do I want to be skiing? Where do I want to progress as a skier?
I think that is huge. Especially someone who's like beginner and they're starting to go more seriously and getting to an intermediate.
Yes.
If I'm selling them a ski, I never sell them like where they are. I sell them where they want to be, because they're going to grow into that ski a little more and enjoy it so much longer than if they bought a ski for the ability level they're currently at.
Absolutely. Now, you can ride any ski anywhere on the mountain.
Preach.
I have taken experience 75 groomer skis in deep powder. I kind of hated my life. No, but I could do it, man. And I learned how to do it, you know, because you do with what you got. And that's just how it is on the mountain. Now, that can help teach you where you might want to be or where you want to progress. Because at that point, I'm riding these experience 75s, and I was like, man, all my buddies are hitting powder like it's none other. And I get down the mountain and I am dead out of breath. Because I can't turn in powder. I'm sinking. I'm like 2 feet under, right? A lot of that is going to be solved and fixed by that different ski. So this isn't to say, you know, you can't try skiing different spots on the mountain. I would go see where you like to ski first, and then say, where do I want to progress? Because that little tweak in the different type of ski you're riding is just going to help you feel more confident in those areas.
Right. And so let's say you have an all mountain ski that you really like, something in the 95. right? And you're like, I want to get more into powder. Well, instead of getting a designated powder ski, maybe look at, something more in the powder spectrum of an all mountain ski.
Right.
Because that's going to give you more of what you're looking to be involved with while still capitalizing on what you enjoy.
Definitely.
So,
love it.
Yeah. I think that's a great place to wrap up. Do we have any other questions?
We had one more thrown in there real quick.
How do I know if it's a ski? How do I know if it's the ski or my technique that needs to change? Wow, these are killer questions.
That is a good question.
I think first off, it's technique. Because like you said, you can ski anywhere across the mountain. So really, one problem that West Coast skiers have is they have these skis with a bunch of rocker in the tail. And so then they can go anywhere, but they're not really getting down to the basics. Whereas someone who's in the East Coast and they're on more of a frontside ski, when they jump to a all mountain or a powder ski, their form from the frontside ski is still there and allows them to ski a lot better. So if you can really master the technique, that technique will benefit you no matter where on the mountain you're going.
Absolutely. There is some slight difference in technique from a powder skier to a groomer skier on different tricks that you're going to do, different stances that you're going to take as far as like trying to pull your tips up and keep your tips out of the snow a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
However, like you said, majority of your form is going to remain the same. And if you even kept that same form, that ski will then help you transition into the proper skiing form.
Right.
Right. So we'll get into more technique later, especially like powder skis. The technique, the technology in it allows to adapt for the technique that you're using. I would say you should always be improving your technique.
I'm still improving my technique. It's literally at the forefront of my mind every time I go skiing.
Yeah. Your ski really doesn't ever need to change. Your ski is something you want to change.
Yes.
Right?
I like that. Yeah.
And it is something you can change at any point while you're developing your technique. However, choose the ski for where you're skiing. That's going to help you improve it as a skier.
Yeah.
Right? If you're skiing grooms on a powder ski or powder board, you're not going to be able to work on your technique as much as if you were riding something designated for that area. So it's just about choosing the appropriate equipment for where you're at.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so we'll wrap up. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe and ring the bell. Ding. So that you'll get notifications when we go live. We're planning on going live, every 2 weeks at the same time.
Yep.
And if you guys have anything you'd want to talk about, leave a comment. We're planning on doing powder skis next time, so if you're here for that, great. If not, leave your question, and we'll definitely get to it.
Yes, and powder boards, please shoot us a message. Follow us on Instagram and our YouTube channel, Between2 Slopes.
Yep.
Right? That's where you're going to find us, and we're excited to go on this journey further this year.
Yeah.
3rd year in a row. Let's pound it out.
Let's kill it.
It's going to be great. We'll
Awesome.
chat with you guys later.
Thanks.